to Economic Development Committee public hearing for the 2018 operating budget. I am Councilmember Elizabeth Brown. I am joined here by President Pro Tem Priscilla Tyson and Councilmember Michael Stanziano. And we are joined by Quentin Harris, who is Deputy Director for the Department of Development. Deputy Director Harris, thank you for being here to give an overview of the 2018 operating budget as it pertains to economic development. I know that the department oversees quite a bit of what goes on in our city, and you are the Deputy Director for our Economic Development Division. So we appreciate your time here today, and without further ado, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Brown, President Pro Tem Tyson, Councilmember Stanziano. The Department of Development is pleased to provide you with the Economic Development 2018 Budget Report, which will detail the Department's 2018 budget pertaining to the economic development and planning functions here in the city. The Department of Development, thank you. The Department of Development, through its 2018 budget request, is proposing a total operating budget of $37.7 million for 2018. The 2018 budget submittal includes 80% of the department's budget is made up of general funds and CDBG funds, a 2% general fund increase over last year at a cost of $630,000. However, a CDBG reduction of 29% or $1.7 million compared to 2017. The combined general fund and CDBG budgets total is 4% or $1.1 million less than last year. The remaining 20%, about $7.3 million of the budget, is made up of the following funds: the Business Tax Incentive Fund, the Neighborhood Economic Development Fund, Home Funds, Land Management Fund, and our LEAD grant. Budget reductions were accomplished through a more efficient budgeting of our goods and services, additional general fund dollars from finance and management, shifting approximately $700,000 to the Neighborhood Economic Development Funds, shifting of $1.5 million in CDBG expenses to the general fund and other funds. Contracts that were considered expansions in the past have now been included into our general fund budget. Those are Columbus 2020 at $700,000 a year, Rev 1 Ventures at $450,000 a year. In 2018, however, our Rev 1 funding will be reduced, and we will move towards a competitive RFP grant program focused on small business and entrepreneurs throughout the city. And we'll allocate a portion of those funds to fund that RFP competitive grant process. We have NextGen at $250,000, which represents a $200,000 reduction from 2017. We're going to fund PACT at $250,000, which is consistent with last year. Capital Crossroads in the Discovery SID District at $190,000. Creative Campus in Columbus State at $100,000. Sister Cities at $75,000, and the Morris Road Special Improvement District at $75,000. We will not provide the Franklin County Finance Authority, which $100,000 in funding that was provided in 2017. The 2018 budget by division allows the department to focus its efforts on the core mission and the city's strategic priorities for 2018 regarding neighborhoods, early childhood development and education, diversity and inclusion, economic development, and operational efficiencies. The budget supports a staff of 178, and budgetary resources have been allocated to maximize program delivery as follows. 17% of the department's budget is to support the administration of the department, which includes $2.5 million of general fund allocation to match the $2.5 million in emergency human services allocation for social services. This is flat funded from 2017. 23% to support code enforcement and environmental nuisance, 33% to support housing, including the Community Shelter Board. The department budget includes $5.7 million for CSB. 14% for economic development to support the creation and retention of jobs and investment in the city. 5% for planning to guide the thoughtful development of our neighborhoods, and 8% for the Land Redevelopment Division to continue working on abating the vacant and abandoned properties in the city. The 2018 development budget is $5.1 million and supports a staff of 18. The major general funding contracts are consistent with a number of the contracts I just named, so I won't announce the totals, just the names. Columbus 2020, Rev 1, Next Gen Corporation, PACT, Capital Crossroads, Discovery District SID, Creative Campus, which is Columbus State, Sister Cities, and the Morris Road Special Improvement District. And $777,000 in CDBG funding will be used to support small business development and entrepreneurship, including the economic development lending programs. 6 employees were shifted from CDBG to the Neighborhood Economic Development Fund. In 2007, the Economic Development Division within my Office of Business Assistance was successfully negotiated 25 business attraction and expansion projects, which will leverage more than $275 million in private sector investments in the city. These projects anticipate creating 1,313 jobs, retaining 2,391 existing jobs, which should result in more than $61 million in new annual payroll and $1.535 million in net new income tax revenue to the city. Within our Office of Infrastructure Investments, by the end of 2017, we expect to complete 16 public-private partnership projects that represent capital investments by the city of more than $23.4 million, which leveraged approximately $698.4 million in private sector investment for a leveraged investment ratio of $29.86 for every City of Columbus dollar invested. Over the past year, the department has worked with HRNA advisors to conduct an incentive policy evaluation. The study looked at both residential and commercial incentive policies and developed a list of recommendations for our consideration. We subsequently held 4 community conversation public meetings, and after assessing resident feedback, we are currently in the process of compiling our final list of recommendations to implement, which we will present to council in the new year. For the planning area, the planning budget request is flat funded for 2017 to 2018 with a budget request of $1,990,131 to support a staff of 18. Development completed the draft Columbus Citywide Planning Policy C2P2 framework designed to bring a consistent, updated approach to neighborhood planning that is informed by citywide priorities and responds to the challenges and opportunities of growth. The department initiated new area plans in the Far East and Southeast using the C2P2 strategy. We developed the Columbus Planning Academy and undertook inaugural sessions with 2 area commissions. We reviewed over 300 zoning and variance applications, conducted roughly 280 Section 106 reviews, managed over 900 commission and board agenda items that were considered at over 100 meetings throughout the year, completed over 900 staff reviews for non-commission cases, managed staff review and legislative processes for 9 annexations, initiated and are near completion on the North High Street Public Art Master Plan, completed urban agricultural agricultural plan, completed substantial updates and revisions to the University District Zoning Overlay, worked with partner city agencies to manage over 150 UIRF projects in 21 neighborhoods, including investments in sidewalks, street trees, park improvements, and streetlights. Completed the second year of partnership with the Celebrate One program with an investment of a planner focused on Franklinton and the Hilltop neighborhoods. Finally, the streetcar structure was installed at Livingston Park as part of the city's public art program. Thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions that you all may have.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director. You highlighted so many great things that the division has been working on. Economic Development Division, Planning Division, all parts of the department. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for the really incredible, diligent and detailed staff work done to complete the incentive study. And I know that we've still got some final loose ends to tie up, and we look forward on council to receiving the recommendations from those. But I know it was no short order for for the team at the department to put together,
yes.
And so thank you for that. I wanted to highlight a couple things. You talked about the Franklin County Finance Authority, us reducing that contribution, and correct me if I'm wrong on those details, but it is because they no longer need it in order to stay fiscally sound and offer the loan services that they do. And that was kind of the original intent when they were created as a joint venture with the county, is they would become self-sustaining. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, Chair Brown. Over time, we have slowly been reducing our investment, our commitment financially for operating purposes. Also because we provide, a significant amount of deal flow, which also provides them with revenues. And now, after a couple of years of discussion with them, we both agree that they're at the point where they're financially sufficient as it relates to operating cost. But they do, from time to time, still come to us to potentially fund specific projects or initiatives like our PACE program to help create new lines of businesses or provide additional value to the city based on our priorities.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you so much. President Pro Tem Tyson, is there anything? Yes?
Thank you, Chair Brown. When do you foresee the competitive process starting for, you mentioned like Rev 1, that you're still supporting them, but you're also going to have another competitive process. And so when do you foresee that process starting?
Thank you, President Pro Tem Tyson. We anticipate a potential launch date of mid-January for the Small Business and Entrepreneurial Pilot RFP program. Essentially, we are going to reduce Rev 1's commitment by $200,000, and we're going to try and find some additional funding within the department to create the total pilot pool, which we will have prospectively two categories: one to help fund small business endeavors, and the other to fund entrepreneurial endeavors within the city. And they will be based on city priorities. Over the last several years, Mark Lundeen, the administrator within my division, and myself have felt, with Henry Galat, who's our new small business coordinator, feels that we have been reactive to these communities as it relates to what our small and entrepreneurial priorities should be within the city, and based on the priorities of the administration, we feel as if we should be dictating in a large sense what the city's priorities are as it relates to small and entrepreneurial priorities, not necessarily at the exclusion of supporting other priorities that other entities throughout the city are doing in those areas, but as it relates to the funding that we provide them to set our priorities and have them react to our priorities, and quite frankly, enlarge and enrich, expand upon aspects that are our priorities within their business plan through our RFP process to make sure that what we want to accomplish as a city in those areas are being funded appropriately and adequately.
Thank you, Chairwoman Brown.
Thank you so much. And we do not have any speaker slips tonight, but we do have a guest here who has asked for me to waive the rules and allow her 3 minutes, which I am happy to accommodate. Miss Alicia Fennell, if you'd like to come to the podium. Welcome back to council. I know that you know the rules. If you could state your name and address, whom you represent, and if anyone, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Alicia Fennell, Columbus Stronger Way Jobs Initiative. Good evening, council members and viewing audience. This year, the city, due to growing public scrutiny, has undergone a review of its economic development incentives that attract real estate investment and high-quality jobs to Columbus. These incentives are primarily in the form of property and income tax abatements for capital-rich corporations and developers. For 2018, I'm asking Council to consider a pilot $4 million economic incentive fund targeted to the small and minority businesses and nonprofits, most of which are strapped and unable to secure working capital loans could grow alternatively through a subsidized labor force proposal utilizing proven transitional job models. Payroll is a major business expense. This needed direct employment incentive would promote building and expanding businesses in troubled high-crime neighborhoods while employing disadvantaged residents. Businesses would receive payroll funding up to minimum wage for 6 months, provided they train participants in a marketable skill. Joblessness contributes to taxpayer expense versus using tax dollars to facilitate small business growth, small businesses being the main job generators. Our troubled, high-crime, higher unemployment neighborhoods now represent 14 of the 28 zip codes, half of our city. Any business in half of our targeted zip codes could submit a proposal for their staffing needs. And reviewed by workforce development partners, suitable disadvantaged candidates would be screened, oriented, and interviewed. Job candidates would reside in the targeted zip code, be age 18 and older, and unable to find work for the past 30 days. This pilot $4 million incentive fund could be funded from 2 budget redirects. 1, redirecting $2 million to pay police officers overtime to cover increased bike and foot patrols by uniformed officers. Might this perhaps be suitable employment for a transitional jobs proposal hiring disadvantaged residents already familiar and streetwise in their neighborhoods, channeled through a local security business? And number 2, use $2 million from the rainy day fund. These troubled neighborhoods have seen rainy days for decades. New jobs and business expansion would return new revenue to city budgets. As a beginning pilot, this $4 million fund could create 400 to 800 jobs in 2018, or almost 60 jobs per troubled 14 zip codes. Jobs reduce crime, and as we incrementally build this small business fund each year by $4 million, we can slowly pivot from funding police, which in 2018 is an additional $20 million, to funding job programs in our higher crime zip codes. Our goal is to decrease the Columbus Police Department and increase much needed inner city job creation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fennell. You can have a seat if
Thank you
like.
for allowing me to speak.
Of course, thank you. I appreciate you coming down, and you may have a seat. You don't feel you need to stand. I'll have a couple remarks regarding the proposal, but you don't feel you need to stand. So I appreciate you diligently coming to council, and I do think I was able to read the letter that you provided us at council last night, and the idea of transitional jobs is obviously a good one and a noble one, and we do have a program similar to that currently run out of the city called Restoration Academy, in which we do fund a period of time for people to get back on their feet. What makes it work is that it is coupled with training, professionalized workforce training that the city engages in. So the program costs a heck of a lot more than the raw hourly wage that we pay to those employees. And that's why it's successful. We have nearly 100% graduation each year. We have 100% 100% zero recidivism rate, not the technical term. But that is because of the, again, professionalized and focused training that we couple with it. So just the hourly wages in themselves don't actually I fear don't actually guarantee an outcome without the very real cost of workforce training. The private employers aren't necessarily able to, experienced enough, or willing to provide. Additionally, when there is a transitional jobs program based around a minimum wage, which is what your proposal, I believe, lays out, that creates a lot of challenges because minimum wage is not a living wage. And I know I've shared this with you before. One of my concerns from an economic development perspective of one version of a broad-scale transitional jobs program that you've laid out is that it would be based around a income tax percentage, and the mismatch between when unemployment balloons because of a recession, income tax receipts go down, that creates a real tension in sort of the intent of the program and the reality that we're facing as a city in trying to calibrate open jobs with folks looking for employment. So I appreciate your passion for this. I know we'll have an ongoing debate. I know we don't always have time in council to do that, and yet you come down here regularly. So I wanted to make sure that I did provide a couple comments because you did take the time to come down here again. And I know we'll continue to talk, and I thank you for your efforts. I don't know if there's anything that the Deputy Director would like to say, or any from the West Scioto Area Commission. President Pro Tem Tyson, is there anything else you'd like to add? Okay, great. Thank you so much. This concludes our Economic Development Committee public hearing for the 2018 operating budget. I thank everyone for their participation. Have a great evening.
Just curious, what's the acronym? Is it CBG or CBG? What does that mean?